This week on Not Another Shooting Show.
Where in the world is the P320?
Everything is safe if you just keep it completely disassembled.
Go trap shooting with dragon's breath.
Yes. Maybe. Sort of. Kind of? Yeah, I don't know.
Even in my state, that's going to get you arrested.
As Taylor Swift said, maybe it's you.
He's Jeff King. I'm Andy Erickson. This is Not Another Shooting Show. We go to Kent, Washington, where a 43-year-old man was taken to the hospital by his girlfriend after he was shot by someone as he walked out of a gas station. Crazy, right?
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, well, that's what he told the police. The clerk at the gas station told a different story, though. According to the clerk, a gun fell from the man's pants as he gathered items from the shelves. He picked up the gun and tried to stuff it back into his waistband, but struggled. That's when he started to, quote, fiddle with the weapon and then dropped to the floor. He left the store after shooting himself
directly in the buttocks.
Right in the ass.
What a narc.
Got into a vehicle and was driven to the hospital by his girlfriend. Video footage also showed he was not shot outside the store. His girlfriend turned over the gun to authorities. Police said they learned the man had prior felony convictions, making it illegal for him to possess a gun. The gun had also been stolen. So he had surgery and will face 3 felony charges. Police advise the public to keep guns in holsters. And if an accidental shooting happens, wait for medical help.
Good plan.
Good plan. Here's a better plan. I'm going to actually hit record on the backup recorder now. So I got the first minute is only in one place, but I got all the rest of it'll be in both. Good hell. I'm terrible. You sent me a doozy of a story today. This is like when people get all wound up like, why can't I shoot my tracers at the range? I want to shoot my dragon's breath off in my shotgun. Well, a New Jersey man did that despite it being illegal and has been charged with arson in connection to a wildfire that spread to 350 acres that authorities said was sparked by an incendiary shotgun round. His name is Richard This name's awesome. His name is Richard Shashady. Shashady. S-H-A-S-H-A-T-Y. He was charged with arson and violation of regulatory provisions relating to firearms. The fire in Jackson Township in central New Jersey broke out around noon on November 6th near the Central Jersey Rifle Range.
Ooh.
Yeah. Excuse me. I was fighting that one off for a while. The blaze was dubbed the shotgun fire. Investigators concluded the fire began behind a berm at the rifle club and was caused by magnesium shards of a dragon's breath 12-gauge shotgun round, which ignited materials on the berm. Especially on the back of the berm, like they're going to be like grass, like dried grass and stuff there. That happened at a range near here once, and it was just from a spark. It wasn't even from anything that dumb. Firing incendiary or tracer ammunition is not allowed in New Jersey, authorities said.
So that's where his firearm charge comes from.
Yeah, it's like illegal too. It looks like just the possession of it is not allowed.
Yep.
So, my state, of course, we can buy it and have it. It's just it's hard to find a place to shoot it. That's the only thing.
I was about to say, and your state is like my state, in perpetual drought, and never a good time to have magnesium fly through the air.
There was that time of the June's a good time to pop off tracers in South Dakota. You know, we had a flood.
Right. Okay. So as long as your state is flooding, you can shoot tracers.
A 500-year flood. Yes. I mean, everything was like moldy after a while. You know. It was pretty gross. So that would have been a good time to, pop off the go trap shooting with dragon's breath. Sure. Why not? You know.
Every rule has a reason, regardless if you agree and even if you know what that reason is. It's like, because my range has a lot of no full auto bays, and you're like, I wonder what this is for. And you're like, oh, because people have shot over this berm on a regular basis.
Yeah. And this berm's not tall enough. And there's stuff behind it makes it sketchy. And yeah, that would be why. Hey, if you're not one of our Patreon subscribers, you can join the club, patreon.com/notanothershootingshow. Just $3.57 a month. You get an entire second episode every single week. Also, hit up our Reddit, r/NAS on Reddit. We had a lot of people posting different stuff. Our super thread didn't really get much. I only posted it yesterday, but there was a lot of stuff posted, a lot of which we're going to talk about on the show today because it was some relatively interesting stuff. But moving on to where in the world is the P320? Or what in the world is going on this week with the P320? Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, it's not in California.
At least at law enforcement ranges. This was rather amusing. A press release from the Northern California Regional Public Safety Training Authority.
That's a mouthful.
It is indeed. The title of the press release, or actually, is it a press release or is it just a notification to... Anyway, it's a release, and it says, the headline of it, the Sig Sauer P320 is no longer allowed at the NCRPSTA shooting range. The text of the notice, there have been reported approximately 100 instances where the SIG P320 has fired while in a holster without the trigger being pressed or the weapon being manipulated. These incidents have occurred with the military, law enforcement, and civilians, resulting in users being injured. Sig Sauer is currently being sued by approximately 80 different officers and civilians. A citizen was recently awarded $2.3 million during a lawsuit against SIG after being shot with his P320 discharged in the holster. Some of these self-firings have been recorded on body cameras and surveillance cameras. Multiple LE agencies, including Milwaukee PD, Montville PD, and Orange PD, transitioned from the P320 after self-firing incidents. Maple Falls PD recalled all their SIG P320s after an SRO was shot by his holstered P320 on September 20th. The SIG P320s firing in holsters without being manipulated have continued to occur with guns that have had the drop safety upgrade. For safety concerns, this weapon is no longer allowed at our range facility. Okay.
I mean,
what?
That can't get more on the nose than that.
No,
like,
it pretty much lays out. If you disagree with this, here's why.
Yeah, because I've heard people say, oh, those must be like, first gens and they haven't had the safety upgrade or this or that and the other, and you're like, well, A, SIG was terrible about telling you if the new upgrade had happened, and right. B, nope, brand new ones are fucking people up. Yeah, it's a little on the sketchy side. I don't blame them at all. Like I say in my permit classes, hey, if you have one and you like shooting it, great. I just wouldn't carry it in a holster loaded. That's all. Just they could have them there. It'd be fine as long as they just don't ever allow them to be loaded without being held pointed directly downrange. Right.
That's the only time where it's sketchy. Is if they're loaded and not pointing directly downrange.
Everything is safe if you just keep it completely disassembled. Like you'll never get in a car accident if you don't put the tires on.
Just remove the barrel. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It can't go off if it doesn't have the barrel in it. So, yeah. I mean, we kind of rail on it, but it just keeps making its own gravy. So,
right.
We're just reporting the news, folks. We're not writing it. We're just reporting it.
And we won't be making the news because neither of us have P320s.
Yeah, right. We at least not for that. Okay. A friend of mine sent this to me, and I thought it was sort of interesting. Because it's something both you and I do. Can video games make you a better shooter in terms of your vision?
Yes. Maybe. Sort of. Kind of. I don't know.
That's a great answer. Jesus. You went from the spectrum of yes to just slightly greater than no.
Right. So, as someone who's played video games for the majority of my life, I don't know that my video game playing has made me better, because like I don't know. So most of the high level shooters I know of don't also have like gaming channels, but we also have a great example of it working, which is Ben Eggleston, who was a competitive video game player.
Yeah.
And so maybe there is some idea to the tracking and target acquisition type stuff that could help, but I don't know. I there's a part of me that doesn't think that it would make a major difference, but I don't think it would hurt.
Here's something I have found, like really the only first person shooter I play is Call of Duty, and it's mostly really old ones. I will on occasion just sort of try to, especially in the early rounds when I'm just shooting the pistol, in survival mode, I'll just like look at the spots and try to point the mouse over to where it's going to be and do it. That's not the same as moving my hands with a pistol in hand, but it's sort of the same thing. And it works better than I would think. So it's not so much that that's making me better at shooting. It's like I'm taking this thing from shooting and bringing it to video games. And
that's what, because I think I got second on I think it's Area 51, one of the arcade games where you have like a little gun simulator in your hand and you have to like shoot off the screen to reload.
Time Crisis.
Time Crisis, Area 51. There's a dozen different ones. But I remember me and my friend were playing at this bar and she was awful, but like I wasn't, and so we combined. We got to like the second to last level, or like we got much farther in it than I ever remember getting, and I ended up getting like second place on the machine without paying for, I think we might have paid for like one or two more lives, but I was basically doing my side and her side the entire time, and it was just like, oh yeah, because like one of the things I think that video games can help with for sure is that like my eyes are telling me something, my hands are doing something. And I think with some shooters, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about what I did today, is some shooters, you're like, all right, so the sights are aligned. Okay, sights are aligned. All right, so now I'm putting pressure on trigger. Okay, boom. All right, now I'm bringing the gun back down. And of course that happens much faster than when I'm saying it, but like they're having to think about all those processes where I, like Andy's saying, we're so used to like put mouse onto spot I want that moving the gun over there is just like, yeah, I'm essentially moving the mouse where I need it to go. So I could see it being useful, but I don't know that taking someone like Stager or something and being like, hey, go train with a competitive like COD team for 6 weeks, that'll make you better.
Yeah. I don't think it hurts. I think if you have a video game background, just you're of an age, like not much older than me is sort of the cutoff for gamers. I mean, there are people older than that got into gaming, but, if you're like, say, I don't know, I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 and under grew up with video games of some kind. I mean, 13, 14 years older than me, they were like the first arcade games or whatever, but they were just older than me when I saw them as a 5-year-old, Yeah. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So basically 60 and under, 65 and under, like they grew up with video games. So that's pretty much most of the people that play our game, maybe to one degree or another, were exposed to it.
Right, but I
think console gaming is more like a 50 and under thing.
I would say 40 and under.
I'm 47, dude. I had consoles growing up. What are you talking about?
Okay, what I was going to put the caveat there is that most of the older people, at least that shoot with me, are not the type that also played video games. It could be a self-selecting thing. Is that the gamers of your generation are not the let's go stand in dirt pits and shoot guns people.
Yes, I have purchased a video game console in my 40s.
Right. Whereas
that was as much for me as it was my kids.
Right. Whereas like my generation and younger, there's a large portion of the modern shooting population that got into guns because they're like, oh, I remember this from COD, or I know this from Apex, or well, not Apex, but like different games with modern guns in them. They're like, I mean,
that
COD,
fed my interest when I got back into it. You know, 12 years ago was the games of like I'd been playing the Call of Duty games leading up to when my interest in guns actually reignited, and I was like, oh yeah, M1 Garand I saw this old guy with at the range. I messed with that at the or was shooting that in Call of Duty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Call of Duty World War II games probably brought a new generation to the World War II kind of collecting era. That C and Arsenal has talked about how after Battlefield World War I think it was, that prices went up on World War I weapons because people were like, oh, I can buy a French LaBelle. Like I use that in the fucking game. Like, hell yeah, dude. Like, this is awesome. And so, yeah, it does have other benefits, but for making you a better shooter, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. I don't know that, again, I don't know that if you're already a good shooter that like working on being good at video games will make you better, but I understand the logic because the people are probably screaming at their Spotify or whatever right now about like, what about Ace VR and like the laser?
Yeah, I was about to bring that
stuff.
up. Because there's the Ace VR, and then there's also I wasn't familiar with this, but my friend Jeremy who sent me this idea to talk about AIM Labs. Have you heard of that?
I have not off the top of my head. Is that because when I first read it, I thought it was one of the laser companies?
No, it's a video game, but it's like you can play it on Xbox or PC. Built by gamers for gamers. It's like a brain. Learning that plays like a game. It's sort of like brain games.
Oh, okay. So it's like gun brain game kind of.
No, it's not gun at all.
Oh,
it's
one of the pictures on their website is like a guy holding a gun. So that's why I thought it was.
Oh, maybe it is. I don't know.
And so let's since neither of us have experience with it, we'll just
we
say
have
that
no
we
idea what
can't
we're talking
comment.
about, but it was something he brought up.
The Ace VR, I have no experience with it.
I have a little bit.
Hopefully, my two of my friends bought it, and we intend to have drunken Ace VR matches soon. Trademark, and that one I can see the benefit because it's a direct translation of what we do.
It's a very close translation.
Right. It's a very close translation. You are shooting USPSA targets or IPSC targets with steel on. Can you move in Ace VR?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a little movement, but there's little that truly replicates the gun. And so like I'm interested to see if, like, I would love if like someone could get their kid to just play Ace VR, like Tanfo Timmy just posted a picture of his kid like getting his first like USPSA kind of like belt going. I'm just like, hey Tanfo, if you're listening, make your kid play Ace VR for like the rest of the winter because Minnesota and snow go together, and like see if he comes out as B class. Like let's just see.
Do an experiment. Like don't do any actual practice. Just do that. Yeah.
Right.
The only thing about the Ace VR that if the two lenses gave different images so that it was sort of like your eyes combining to make an image, because right now it's like shooting a red dot pistol in Call of Duty. You know, both eyes are seeing the same thing, so it's it's the vision is not the same. If they could replicate that, like how vision actually works, then now we're talking.
Well, yeah, I could definitely see that helping. I think I saw someone was gonna, and like I'm definitely not someone who's like, oh, you must use like your exact pistol, but like
No.
It is
just
like a plastic, right? Well, it right now I think it's going back to our other article. I think it only comes in like P320 and like Glock, maybe.
No, there's a staccato. No, they don't have Glock yet.
That's surprising.
Well, they got to license it.
I guess.
I mean, yeah, they can't just use somebody's. Oops, that sent me to a Chinese or Japanese website. Ace VR. I'll just Google it instead of it's Ace XR.
Yeah, I'm on the website right now.
Oh, they've got the macro comp handsets now available.
What is the Arctis?
I don't know. But then they've got a staccato P. But the regular P320 is a thing also.
Yeah, so the Arctis grip angle and ergonomics are similar to the P320, while the muzzle is similar to the Springfield Echelon because reasons. So I can see the value in this setup because you have a gun-like thing in your hand. So I think one of the places that video game to shooting kind of breaks down is like if you're playing on like PS5 or Xbox using the sticks to get your crosshair where you want it. Yeah, that probably kind of throws you off a little bit. But also, if you're trying to translate shooting directly, like moving a mouse is not the same as moving a gun.
No.
But so
there's a ton of value in it. I think. But do you think it's better than dry fire?
No, I think that dry fire by itself per cost is the best value you can get. 100%. And to Steven and Nick, who we'll be talking about later, I don't feel like I practice because I haven't been dry firing, but I've just been live firing. And like that's why I feel like I haven't practiced, is because like that's where the true practice is. I think that these types of video games can help people to create a practice like program, essentially. Like it will give people who are like, I need some type of feedback. I need some type of like game to keep me going, because I understand like sitting in your basement, drawing your gun and shooting at a wall is why I say our sport is built on autism, because like you have to be a little autistic to be like, you know what I'm going to do? Put my belt on, go in my garage and just draw my gun for the next hour. That's what I'm doing. So I think it could be a definitely good thing. And like, I could see it being very useful for police departments, military, like as a concept. If you're trying to win USPSA nationals, I don't know that the next nationals champion is going to be the top leaderboard from the Ace VR system.
Yeah. The marketing guy for that, he lives near me. He shoots at my club, and we should have him on and chat about it sometime. The one thing I did find kind of super cool and useful about it though was it's not the same trigger, but guess what? When I'm dry firing, it's not the same trigger either. You know, when I was shooting Glocks, if I'm shooting a CZ, well, there's no sear engagement on my single action dry firing. So the trigger's never really the same when you're dry firing.
Right.
Really, except maybe first trigger press. However, the thing I did find interesting about the Ace VR thing was that if my firing hand, decided to like, I'm going to squeeze and press trigger with my whole hand, I would see that dot move off the plate, just like in real life.
Right.
It was, as long as you're paying attention to it and trying to call shots just like you would for real, I think there's some value to it. I think it would be better if it was binocular, meaning we're not just getting the same screen in two eyes with enough offset to make it look 3D.
I think that could be a cool mod or like an addition to the game that they
I think
could
it'd be
put
a really
on,
complicated one to actually because your eyes are in two different places.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being complicated, but I could also if you've never played strategy games, the modding community for these things is remarkable.
Yeah.
So if Ace VR is able to be modded, I think it could be a mod that is implemented. So on the scales of quality, I would say Dry Fire is top, Live Fire is right below that, and I'd put this as a solid number 3 behind it. I don't think. I think there are places that could negatively affect you, but I do see the value in seeing the targets you're shooting and understanding what you're doing. I could also see some negatives, but they're kind of the similar negatives from Dry Fire. It's like you start you don't need to grip the gun very hard. You don't need to the gun doesn't weigh that much. There's little nitpicks and skipping seven layers, and then you get into the laser target things. I hate those things.
I get asked about them a lot. And
they're on Reddit all the time.
Yeah, and I just say, it's not as useful as Dry Fire.
Yep, people for anyone who's like, what are you talking about? It's like the biggest problem with it, for me at least, is you stop thinking about what's happening in your hand and what's happening with the gun, and you just start looking for where the laser goes.
Yeah,
and so you're starting to read the wrong information.
Moving on. There was a CCW Reddit post that has since been deleted, but I made a comment on it. A guy said he had a close call while leaving the store today. Now, his original post has been deleted. I think I'm probably to blame for that. But I wasn't even really trying to troll. I was just sort of pointing out a problem with what he did, or at least the way he told the story in his post, which I think he probably had all the detail, but he said he said something along the lines of he and his wife were walking, and a guy comes screaming up behind him when they're in a crosswalk and slams on the brakes, and he's like, "Hey, rah, rah, rah," and they're yelling at each other because guys are dumb. And then they walk to their car, and this car follows them to their car and then blocks them in as they're getting in, and he told his wife to get in the car, and so he pulls in behind him, blocks him in, and says something like, I got something for y'all's ass, while reaching into the center console. And what he said, it was definitely a weapon of some kind. But he couldn't identify what it was.
Right.
And then he also says to the guy, come on, man, it isn't worth your life.
That's a threat.
Yeah, that's what I said. And the problem I was pointing out was, if that guy calls the cops and reports him, his whole story that he put on Reddit was the whole reason, that he what he did, I left out, he put his hand on his gun and said, "Come on, man, it isn't worth your life." I'm not saying he would have gotten charged or gotten in trouble for it. I'm just saying there's problems that could arise by doing such a thing.
Right. There's a lot of people admit to a lot of things they shouldn't. And the law is not as on your side as you think it is.
Well, and it's not so much that, it's just he was offering to use deadly force in a situation where it was very unclear whether or not that was justified.
Right. And again, kind of going back to my point, is people what's the word I'm looking for? People's perception of the threat that validates lethal force is not in line with what the law is.
Right.
You need to see that weapon, and that weapon needs to be coming at you to some degree. You can't see a guy holding a pocket knife.
They have opportunity to use it.
Right. You can't see a dude who has a pocket knife out 15 yards away and he's like, fuck you, motherfucker. I hope you die. Like, nope, that wasn't a threat. Just because he's got a pocket knife peeling an apple or whatever doesn't mean he has the opportunity and like that isn't self-defense. So check your ego at the door, and if you can run away, always run away. If you talk to anyone who understands violence, anyone who practices violence, the first thing they'll tell you is, "Oh, I avoid fights." I know. I can tell a story later, but like we had a dude get injured in training, and it was just a little accident, and now he's fucked up for months, and so it's like, avoid all conflict, and then don't post it on the internet.
Yeah. Now, the funny part of this was then I started getting downvoted and getting told how stupid I am and how wrong I am, which was hilarious. It got a total of 46 downvotes, and then pretty much everything under it got a whole bunch too. And then a guy who got 44 upvotes, here's what he said. Here's his refute or rebuttal to what I said. OP tried to retreat, got blocked in, and is in fear for his life while waiting for the aggressor to pull a weapon. No matter the type, he, quote, has something for his ass. So OP makes it clear he'll defend himself. And now he's in the wrong? I guess state and other circumstances matter, but generally disagree. How do you suggest he could have done this differently? And my response was, all he had to do was not say it's not worth your life. That's all he had to change to keep this from being a little sketchballs. Now, I was just getting into the minutia of it, like a nuanced take on what he wrote. You know, there's probably details he left out that made it seem more dangerous. You know, that maybe it was more justified. But I'm like, hey, dude, if you're saying that this is not worth your life, like somebody's breaking into your car and you put your hand on your gun and you say, and you're not in the car, by the way, like you're in the house and you're like, hey, it's not worth your life.
that is a threat of great bodily harm.
Even in my state, that's going to get you arrested. Okay? Like, if it's not an occupied vehicle, that's not okay. So I just found that funny because and after a while, I had to fight the urge so hard to not respond like a troll because I just kept stating facts. I didn't get colorful. I didn't try to insult anybody. One guy said, "Oh, found the dude who lives in California or New York." This is the only comment that was upvoted. I said, "No, South Dakota." Oh, I did get a little cocky, and I know the law better than you. Unpopular doesn't mean incorrect.
Right, and that's one of those, like, everyone always says like Reddit is this like liberal hive mind, but it's more just a hive mind.
Yes.
Because you naturally segregate.
Yes.
Like our CCW is not full of hardcore liberals. I can guarantee that.
No. It's also not full of people who actually know self-defense law.
Right. It's a bunch of people trying to strut to be like, oh,
they're having masturbatory fantasies about
yes.
There was, how many times have you had to draw your gun? That was a thing that was posted yesterday. And there's one dude, well, actually, this was a guy in the one we were talking about otherwise, he's like, I've had to draw my gun 3 times. And I'm like, I was resisting the urge to go, you need to make better life decisions if you've had to draw 3 times, or you're insanely unlucky.
Right, because I
suppose it's possible he's just unlucky.
Yeah, and maybe you live in a bad area. I've had to draw my gun twice. Both of them were at a homeless shelter I was working security at. And so I was in a naturally bad environment, and I was in a job that required like armed security. Mm-hmm. So like it skews the perception, but I also know people. And again, like I've been carrying for a decade now or so, and I've never needed to draw outside of working armed security.
Yeah.
Like so yeah, if you've had to draw 3 times and you're a Reddit user, yeah. As Taylor Swift said, maybe it's you.
Maybe. Maybe it is you. Oh, God, that's funny. Okay. I want to talk about a gun I saw today.
Okay.
That I was like, What? What? So I went with my son to Shields because I needed to pick up some brass, hunting ammo brass, because I cleaned my gun room and I lost all my 6mm Creedmoor brass. I have no idea where it is. So I figured the load I'm doing is for Hornady out of that. So I'll just buy some Hornady brass now that brass is actually on the shelf for damn near any caliber you'd want. And so after I grabbed that and also got another box of bullets, my son and I are just sort of walking around before we leave, walking around the hunting rifles and, all the bolt action guns over on the one end. And I'm like, I traded that 308 in for my Shadow 2. I kind of want one of those Ruger Americans with the threaded barrel, because I've got one, and that's my 6 Creedmoor. And it's a dandy little rifle. Nothing sexy, but it's very, very good, very consistent, very accurate, shoots laser beams, easy to shoot. And I'm looking for the Ruger rifles, and I'm like, where the fuck are the Rugers? Like, oh, here's like the they're like the OG black stock Ruger American bean can basic rifle. But like, where's the Predators? Where's the ones with the threaded barrels? And I keep seeing these rifles that are, I'm thinking they're like Bergaras or Christensen's or something, because they're just, they're kind of fancy. Like, they were fucking Rugers.
Really?
This is a thing I did not realize was a thing. The Ruger American 2 bolt action rifles are a thing.
I've never even heard of them, and I spend the vast majority of my time on gun forums.
Yeah. Now, unless you're in the, if you don't care about bolt guns, you wouldn't see it. But like now, not having shot one, just looking at it on the shelf, like, I want one bad. And knowing the history of Rugers and rifles, like, they make good rifles. It's still like the Ruger American receiver, but instead of just like this cheap, very basic plastic stock, it still has a plastic stock, but it's the buttstock end is very modular. You can lengthen it, shorten it, make the comb taller, shorter. That's very cool. Sort of customize the length of pole to you. Comes with a sort of medium weight fluted barrel, and it's like a spiral flute, so it looks kind of cool. That's why that was the number one reason why I'm like, well, these can't be Rugers, because the barrels look cool. Like, oh, wow, those are really cool. They come with a brake on them. The Ruger American 2s were like these shorter barrels. So like the 308 one was like a 20-inch. They had a 6 arc that was like an 18 or a 20-inch. 6 Creedmoors were like, I don't know if those were 20 or 22 inches. And then they had like the American 2 Predators, which had the longer barrels and a little different color scheme. They look awesome. They look so awesome. I heard you clickety-clacking. Are you looking at them?
Yeah, I just got to their website. I'm looking at the Scout rifles right now. They're, reasonably priced. I do like the fluting. They're box magazine, detachable box magazine fed bolt action. So the nerd in me wants to try a mad minute out of one. And they come in every caliber you can think of.
Yes.
So,
the range ones are the shorties, the standards, and then the Predators like the longer barrels. Which the longer barrels is just 22-inch,
Yeah, and I was told by a friend that 16-inch guns looks dumb with me. I need to start getting all my guns in 20-inch.
At least 18. There's an 18-inch looks way longer than a 16. It just does, for sure.
But yeah, no, these are very nice looking guns. $729 MSRP. What was the
$599 on the shelf at Shields?
$599 on the shelf at Shields. Like that's hard to beat. Like,
yeah. And they shoot. I own one. They shoot lights out.
Got a Picatinny rail, so like you can just put your riser or whatever on it, mount it up, and you're good to go.
Yeah, they're super cool. I just want to point that out because I did not know that they had come out with these.
I remember hearing nothing about these. Again, like I watch all the video, the like SHOT Show. Every channel does their like SHOT Show rundown, and I don't ever remember this being talked about. Like
Yeah.
this is because we did a SHOT Show rundown eons ago.
They must have announced them after SHOT Show.
Right. Yeah, they were just like, "Oh, hey, by the way, we're doing this." And you're like,
What's a 400 Legend? Oh, it's a 350 Legend, just 400. Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of that one. They even make a 300 Win Mag.
Jesus.
Yeah. Like,
make it in an H&H caliber and
Oh, God.
you have yourself a sale.
oh my God. No, thank you. Those don't look fun. I mean, they're cool. I mean, they're cool, but like, I don't need one. Now, okay. Ruger has come out with some really cool rifles. Like when they came out with the precision rifle, the Ruger precision rifles, it was like sort of the first, I don't know, affordable precision rig, which I'm not really into, and I'm sure my PRS friends would be like, yeah, they're real great. Well, they don't suck dick, okay?
Right.
Because I've shot one. They're not bad. They're not a 30-pound PRS gun out of the box. No, but they're not dog shit either. And for somebody who just wants to dick around with it without spending a fortune, they're pretty damn good.
Because they were sub 1,000, weren't they?
They were right around 1,000. I want to say when they first came out, they were in the vicinity of $1,000.
Which for a precision rifle is like a steal.
For like a chassis type gun. Even though I don't think it was actually a chassis gun, maybe it was. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, it was sort of like an entry level PRS gun, and the Ruger Americans, because they used to have the what were the old bolt actions called? I actually have my dad's 223 in my safe. I can't remember, Mark 7 or something like that. I can't remember what they were called, but anyway. I mean, they made nice bolt action rifles back in the day. I still don't understand how their extractor actually clamps onto the shell before it hits the chamber. I think it's a miracle. I don't know how it happens, but like they've made rifles that are great forever. Why is it they can't make a centerfire pistol that is not a boiled abortion?
I want to say it's because they're trying to appeal to the like, I don't want to say lowest common denominator, but like the lowest price point possible. Like they're talked about it
try to
in
do
the
that.
same.
They should just make it good and then price it accordingly.
Right, but they're talked about in the same vein of like Taurus or even like High Point sometimes.
I think that's unfair because the guns go off. They're just heinous.
They're just ugly and
work.
feel
They're
like
just
shit. Yeah,
they all work.
I
remember they don't work.
I'm at the range today. I was talking about the dude that I took to the range had brought his like Ruger P95 or something out, where it broke so far in the back of the trigger that like I would pull the trigger and it wouldn't go off because my finger was too long and I wasn't able to pull the trigger. And it's like it worked. It never had a malfunction. It went bang every time. So like I can't shit on it for like that. But God, it was everything else about it was just awful.
And did it have the horizontal blinds grip?
Yes. Yes.
Like 100%. the worst looking pistol grip of any pistol that has ever been made.
Right. Well, and then they come out with like the gold standard for some things. So the 1022 gold standard.
Semi-auto 22 rifle, absolutely the greatest.
The LCP created the little 380 market in the modern era. Worst gun ever fucking made. I hate that thing. But it did its job.
But any gun like that sucks to shoot. Like none of them are fun to shoot. They all suck to shoot.
Right. But so like they do this and then they come out with like, what was it? The Ruger American?
The Ruger American pistol.
Well, they came out with I don't want to say LCP, but it was like, they came out with like a 9mm LCP and it was awful. And then they came out with the American, which was like slightly bigger.
You're thinking of the Security 9.
Oh.
That was that little Glock 19. You know what though? That of all the pistols they've come out with, that one's not bad. I've shot that. I've had it in classes a lot. It is It still is kind of ugly, but it runs. It doesn't shoot bad, And for a $300 carry gun, I never tell people not to buy those. They're fine.
Right.
They're just ugly.
Well, right, and to shit on USPSA a little bit, like I don't think I've seen Doug Koenig at a match shooting one of these.
No, 1911s and Mark IVs in Steel Challenge.
Right. Well, there's another one.
Yeah, like the Mark Series pistols are fucking amazing.
Right. For 22 pistols, you go with Ruger. And then like the Ruger 5.7, I've heard no complaints with that. Most people say very good things about the Ruger 5.7. I mean, we can have a conversation about 5.7 as a concept, but 20+1 is not an unreasonable little fun gun.
And that American motif on that gun doesn't look as bad as it does on like a 9mm. And because I just Googled it and I'm like, why does that pistol not look as shitty as a 9mm Ruger American?
Right. It something about the length of the mag and it being more straight or something. I don't know. But like, so Ruger can put out some quality if they choose to. They just like.
Sometimes you don't know your baby's ugly.
Right. And they're like, fuck it. We'll just throw out this'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. It's hard to know when your baby's ugly though. It really is. Like no one's gonna tell you your baby's ugly, But anyway, that was an interesting thing I saw today. I mentioned it a little bit ago. I started reloading rifle ammo today for hunting season. And I'm loading up 6mm ARC cartridges and 6mm Creedmoor, and I got my trial loads done. I was sort of panicked because I couldn't find my 6 Creedmoor that I had from last year because I had basically a whole box of it. Because I didn't, I had the 20 rounds that I had that I went hunting with after I developed the load, and then I couldn't find them except for the 4 rounds that were in my bino harness. Well, right before we started recording, I'm like, wait a minute, that Allen rifle bag that has my suppressor in it that I haven't probably touched since hunting season, I wonder if that box is in the big pouch. Sure enough, there it was. I found them. And also, it turns out it wasn't the load I settled on was not the load I used last year. It was a little softer powder charge. But anyway, started doing that. And what I realized is that I don't load enough rifle to be trusted with rifle ammo anymore. Because I'm going to fuck something up.
Yeah, because it's complicated.
There's so many steps. Oh my God. It's because I load so much pistol. That's why. It's because I load pistol like crazy. And even with my high-end potential hunting 10mm rounds, it's still just pistol ammo. The only thing I'm being careful with is the powder charge. Like I'm actually trickling in. It's kind of a lot of powder. It's 15.5 grains of powder.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, it's a powder charge.
For those of you who don't reload, for 9mm minor for USPSA, I load like 3.2 to 3.4.
That's tight group. That's a low volume powder.
True.
But like if you were loading like HS6 and 9mm, you'd probably be somewhere in the 6 grains. It just depends on the powder. Like CFE pistol is another one I've used before. That's like 4.5 grains.
So what grains are you, or what kind of powder are you using for 10mm?
It's what is it? Accurate number 9. It's a very fine grain powder.
Okay.
You know how tight group's sort of like flaky?
Yeah.
But it's like small flaky. This is like super fine grain, like tiny ball powder. Really fine grain. And then 15.5 grains of it. So, yeah, and the case is pretty full when it's done. So I'm not gonna double charge with that shit. That's for sure. But
loading it like open where you just fill the entire case up and
you
then
just fill
scrape
it, level it off, and then compress the bullet in. Yeah. I mean, compressing rifle ammo is a thing that is done. Like sometimes the max load will be a compressed load where you're actually shoving the bullet into grains of powder. And if it's an extruded powder, like the little sticks, Like you'll hear it crunching in there. I've had some loads that were like that.
Ew.
And it's perfectly safe. It's not.
I get
sketchy.
it. It just it sounds sketchy.
It does, but it's fine. As long as you're like and I think the reason they'll even put it in the manual is like there's a C next to it because it's compressed. Because like, yeah, we know it's compressed. It's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. But okay, other dumb things I did though, just because I don't load enough rifle ammo. So when you are putting a rifle bullet into a bottlenecked rifle case, this is not so you don't bell the mouth of the case like you do for pistol, right?
Right.
So, but you do have to kind of make it so the case will accept a bullet. Well, I forgot you're supposed to do that. All you got to do is just put the little chamfer tool on it and just whoosh, give it a couple twists, just to kind of get a smooth angled edge on the inside of it. And I wasn't doing that. And I'm like, boy, these bullets are going in hard. Like, I didn't compress the bottleneck or anything because I've done that before. But, man, they're going in tough. I think the only reason they worked was because it was brand new brass. And after, like, the first 6 of my 6 arcs, I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't chamfer these at all. So then I did that. And then, then they're just going in like butter. Like, butter. You've heard me talk about how my 650 will flip primers over.
Yep.
Apparently, hand priming, I'm capable of doing this too. In fact, the cover art for this episode is going to be an upside down primer in a rifle case because I'm an idiot.
Oof.
I've never done that before. I've never upside down primed a rifle case. I shook them all. Like my hand priming tool will flip them all over. It's got like, part of it is the shaky textured thing to flip them all over so they're the right direction.
Yep.
And I'm just going whack, 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 whack with my Lee priming tool. And this one starts to go in and it feels weird. And I'm like, oh, this is fine. Whack. And then I'm like, that felt weird. And then I look at it. Fuck. And the, interior of the cup is pointing right up at my eyeballs. And I'm like, how did you do that with a rifle, you dumbass? So, and then I also forgot my procedure that I always did with my scale to make sure it was always, because like all of a sudden I'm getting like these wild variations. I would like check when I got to the end of a load of powder, because I've got like 5 that are one load, 5 that's another powder charge, and then 5 that's another powder charge. And I was noticing like the powder charge when I weighed it was going up or down. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I forgot what I always did anytime I'm checking this. It isn't my powder dropper that's the problem. It'll be the scale. It'll just sort of like walk a little bit, as you're going through it. So I always I'm just very anal about it. I will tear the scale every single time, that I weigh a charge. Then that way,
yeah,
it's dialed in every single time. And I was getting like, with rifle ammo, it's not as big a deal as pistol, but I would be like 3/4 of a grain off. Whereas with pistol, that can be a big deal. But
right.
I'm not weighing that much pistol charges. So now we'll see how my pistol ammo goes, because I wasn't checking it with that. So I might have some extra spicy meatballs when I go to the range tomorrow to run the chrono. Ooh, I forgot about the thing. I haven't used it yet though, but a smart thing I did was I bought a Garmin chrono.
Okay.
Yesterday.
I've heard good things about them. I've never used one yet.
They're I used one at the end of one of our regular matches to make sure my ammo was working. Thank you, Josh, for bringing it, and it was not making power factor. So they're super easy. Like compared to what's the other one that came out? The Lab Radar. I mean, those things were fantastic when they first came out because it was, a Doppler radar chronograph for the everyman.
Yeah.
But they're huge and they're kind of a pain in the ass to make them work depending on the type of gun you're shooting. And the Garmin chrono comes in a box with no more shit than like a cell phone. It comes with a stand and a USB-C charging cord, and that's it. That's all that's in the box. Like, that's it.
Oh, yeah, that's nice to throw in a bag.
Yeah. Very, very simple. And I can't wait to shoot it and, use that instead of my optical chrono that was I was fighting with it the other day. And I used to be like, I don't chrono that often. And I was talking to my buddy Josh the other day, and he's like, dude, I always have my chrono with because it's so easy to chrono. I can just check whenever. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a tool I need in my life. I need that more than I need another gun. So, in hindsight, had I seen the Ruger rifle before that chrono, I probably would have bought the Ruger rifle because it's the same price, $600. But
right, it appeals to our lizard brain more.
Yes. Do I need another gun? Of course I do. Why wouldn't I? Okay, so you watched Lane teach a class today. Drink. This is just the one drink. You don't have to do it anymore for the rest of this topic.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, because I texted him like I always do to check what unreasonable time he has chosen for us to get there, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to have like several of my tactical buddies with me," and I was like, "Okay, so we're not doing anything like USPSA related," and we didn't, and that was okay because it allowed me to kind of watch the process of getting a brand new shooter. Well, brand new. He's graduated cop school. Like he's, I believe, on the police force now. Yeah, he's on the police force because he's telling the stories about being on the police force. And remembering that it's like, oh, this is what a brand new shooter looks like. And why certain drills. Because Lane was having him do trigger control under speed, which for those who don't know is where you're aiming at a spot on the target. He had a black pacer up there, so they had a place to put their sights. And then he just hit the buzzer, and when you hear the buzzer, you pull the trigger. And
in dry fire, the goal is to be done pressing the trigger before the beep ends.
Right.
Like it's like hammer the trigger quick as fast as you can.
Right. And live fire, you see what, because a lot of people, especially police and more traditionally trained people, are taught to kind of roll that trigger through, whereas USPSA people have gone, no, we slap the shit out of the trigger because we all slap the shit out of the trigger.
Well,
like this is how we do it.
You can roll it fast, I remember in taking Ben's class, he would just say gradually increase the pressure, but just make that curve shorter, at speed. It's still gradual. It's not just like wham. But like I've never thought to do that drill in live fire though.
Really?
And I feel really dumb for not having thought to do it.
Well, and doing it for live fire because it forces you to be like, oh shit, like, and because I jumped in, he had 3 targets. There were 3 of us that could shoot while he ran the timer, and so I jumped in there and like my double action, I fucking shanked. But like the single action, I think I may have been pulling a little bit low, or I wasn't getting the dot where it was supposed to be. Whatever it was, but like going back to basics is a really good thing to do, and watching this dude improve over time was helpful to be like, okay, so like, yeah, this does work to get you from point A to point B. Because especially like for anyone who doesn't shoot USPSA, like this will sound really arrogant, but we spend our time around such high level shooters that we forget about what the base level shooting is in this country.
I guess I haven't because I teach it. So
right. You are exposed to it on a regular basis. I don't shoot with anyone who isn't a B class or above shooter.
Yeah.
Like, and any B class shooter I'm shooting with should be A class, as long as they like don't go full idiot on a stage. He knows who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
But
he only has a gas pedal and no brakes. Is that who you're talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Full send at all times. Not you. But so it's like I'm only used to dealing with people who are B class and above, and so reminding me to go back, like, okay, this is why we work on these drills. And there's certain parts of it, like I was joking with the guy he was working with that it's good to understand Lane's process. I'm just nicer than him. And he's like, yeah, maybe calling your students retards isn't the best way to encourage them. But these 2 dudes were like Lane's buddy.
No,
so like,
he knows
they're
his
used to his
audience.
process.
Yeah.
Right. He knows his process. And but like he's like, I complimented you once today.
I have witnessed Lane be polite like once.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
he's capable of politeness.
Yeah, when the guy was like, "Yeah, you've been an asshole the whole day," and he's like, "I was nice to you," and he goes, "Name 4 times." He goes, "There was one time," but it was good to like if you are an instructor, regardless of what you're an instructor for, go watch another instructor. Like I teach kickboxing every day, to varying degrees of expertise, and so I'm kind of used to teaching to a degree, but like teaching shooting, it's like, oh yeah, shit, this is a new concept, but the concepts of teaching don't change. Like we were having him do fundamental things and we were kind of progressing him through the fundamental like understanding. And so that was good. And we got a little training in, not much, but a little. And so, yeah, it was good to go back to basics and understand it. And while we were refilling mags at one point, Lane goes, "What the fuck is that?" And we looked down, and someone had been firing 375 H&H at our range. And I actually have the one piece of brass we found. Like, I don't know how he didn't grab it because that thing's probably worth like $20. But like, imagine 5 9mm brass on top of each other.
Yeah, that's even. I mean, that's even fatter than that.
Yeah, it's a big shell case.
I googled it for a picture just to see what it looks like because I generally knew it was some sort of very big bottleneck rifle cartridge, but the bottleneck's not that narrow.
Nope,
it's just a little bit wider. It's also very tapered. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
or is that like just the angle of this photo? Does it taper out towards the base?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Like pretty obviously.
Yeah. So the picture on Wikipedia puts it next to a 338 Lapua.
Yeah, that's the one. No, it's a 338 Winchester Magnum.
Is that not Lapua? So yeah, it's a very, very chunky round, and so no one else was going to take it, so I took it, and I'm like, hell yeah! By Reddit logic, now I need a 375 H&H in my collection.
If you want to see the difference between it isn't that one. The 338 Lapua is a much fatter case under the bottleneck.
Yep.
Compared to the Winchester, it's I guess it isn't that much. It's a little thicker, but it's
for anyone with a 223. Just imagine 2 of them stacked on each other and then make it fatter. Like that's how big
it
this
just
round
looks
is.
like it hurts when it goes off. Like
yes, this is a round that was developed to kill like 1-ton animals in Africa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like no, they don't look fun to shoot, but okay, but moving on. Steven and Nick are now your enemies.
Yes,
why are they your enemies now? These are your friends.
Because they went and trained without me, the bastards.
Oh.
So yesterday was a relatively nice day because, global warming. And so in November in the afternoon, it was actually like shorts weather. And I see a Instagram story from Steven, and he's like, oh, yeah, off season continues. And I'm like, hey, motherfucker, like,
what are you doing practicing in November when it's 48 degrees out?
Without, and there's a part of me.
Gone?
Yes, that one I would have gone. But because sometimes you just want to be invited. I'll fully admit I have several people from my gym that are going to this fight, and it's actually like right next to my apartment, and they're like, and I'm like, I would at least like an invite. They're like, oh, do you want to go? I'm like, no, but I would like the invite.
I know exactly what you mean. I don't want to go, but I still want to be loved enough to be invited.
Right. I don't want to be left out, but I don't want to join you.
That's right. What I've heard before is we know you don't want to go. You won't go. I know, right. But it's still nice to be invited.
Exactly. It's nice to feel wanted.
Yes.
And that's why they're because I'm a very petty person at my core. It's part of my autism, and so they're now my enemies until we train maybe next week or something, then they will stop being my enemies for 28 seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if Steven ever claims to you that he does not train, that's a damn lie.
Well, you were claiming you weren't training at all either, but that turned out also to be a lie.
I only lie fire.
Maury Povich, that was a lie.
You are the father.
You are the father. Okay. Let's move on to Reddit and wrap up the show because we're going to record another one tonight. Let's see. You guys talked about fight or flight in episode 75. From what I've seen, freezing is more common than either response. Any thoughts on that? Experience with it? Advice to overcome it? I have no experience with this. I couldn't. I mean, I guess I've only experienced really like flight situations because like, and it wasn't like someone attacking me. It was like just something that scared the shit out of me. Like a big fucking truck on the interstate when I'm mowing, like, like,
right.
you know, stuff like that. I can't think of, I mean, I got into a few fights in high school and college, but nothing really.
So, yeah, I have a lot more experience with fight or flight because I deal with it every Tuesday and Friday. So what I find from freezing tends to be, sometimes people think freezing is like shutting down, and it's actually the opposite. It's overthinking. It's oh, do I need to do this? What about this? What should I do? This? Do I need to attack? Do I need to run away? Do I what? And it's an overstimulation. Overstimulus.
Sounds like a normal brain all of a sudden being exposed to ADD.
Correct, 100%. And so if you have ADHD, your brain goes,
what you were just describing is like, well, that's my brain all the time.
Correct, 100%. That's why if you ever read any, and I know you shouldn't go based off of these, but all like the ADHD TikToks and like memes and stuff is one of the big things is like in a high stress situation, you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine. Like this is completely calm. To use an example, like literally on Tuesday, I had a guy break his ankle in my gym.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So like, and I was actually like in the other room talking with someone, and one of my fighters ran over was like, we need you right now. And I was like, okay. So I like walked in and found a guy laying on the ground, and I was like, hey bud, what's up? And he goes, I broke my ankle. And I looked down, I'm like, oh yeah, you did. Oh shit. Oh, that's broken. And I was like, shit. And he was a big boy. So like he's like 200 plus pounds. Like, so he was a big boy. Because if he was like 100 pounds, you know, throw him in the back of my truck, drive him to but it's like, sorry, bud, we gotta call the ambulance. Like, there's no other choice here.
We need professional people movers for this.
Right, because like the ankle was pointed in the other direction.
Yeah.
There was no blood, but it was like, and so like one of my students was like, "Are you doing okay?" Like, I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine." Like I don't know. Like there's no reason to put extra energy in this situation. Like shit's fucked. Nothing's bleeding.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I would say is if it's an immediate moment thing, you have to have already kind of decided what you're going to do, if that makes sense. So it's like people talk about freezing. You don't tend to freeze if it's an immediate attack or an immediate event. So like if you're, like Andy said, if you're driving down the interstate and someone cuts you off, you don't tend to freeze. You tend to immediately react because you have to do something. But if you're like, if it's raining and you see people braking hard in front of you and you're like, oh shit, what do I need to do here? And it's that inability to decide which direction to go. That's what freezing is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those, you just kind of have to say, all right, here's the information I have. We're going based off that information and being confident in your ability to make those decisions. Because, and like, I know that sounds kind of, you know, like, what about this situation? What about this situation? I'm like, I honestly don't know. Cause like Andy joked, like I've literally been in situations where I pulled my gun on someone and told them if they tried to stab me, I was going to shoot them in the face. And I don't even know that I had an adrenaline rush. It was more of a,
really?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. It was when I was working at the homeless shelter. This guy had a guy pinned to the wall with a knife to his neck. We got called out there, and I roll up, pull my gun on him, and I was like, "Hey, dude, like, put that knife down." And he was like, "What?" And he like squared up to me with a knife in his hand, and I was like, "Dude, I'll shoot you in the head. Like, put that down right now." And he's like, "Oh." He like threw it at my feet, and I was like, "Okay." And so holstered up, was like, "Hey, dude, do you want to press charges?" He goes, "I ain't talking to no cops." I was like, "All right." So we just walked that dude off the property, and like, I don't know. I don't even know that I had.
You've been exposed to stuff I've not been around. Like, I can't speak to this at all, really, outside of. I have read, though, there's a certain amount of, just like any training, there's a certain amount of mental preparation you can do. You know, like, what would I do if? You know,
right.
Which is in other forms of life. Or not forms of life, in other aspects of life, in other forms of life, you know, like Martians. It's just called planning or preparedness.
Yeah.
Like, so Jeff, you live in Tornado Alley. If a tornado is bearing down on your apartment building, what do you do?
I sit in front of my computer and hope that I don't die.
Okay.
Bad example. Part of it
is probably because you live in a newer apartment building that's made of concrete and steel, and it's not likely to get tipped over in a tornado.
Well, I also live on the 6th floor, and so it's like
getting to a basement's not really an option.
Yeah, and they're like, go into the stairwells. Well,
just
the stairwells all have windows to the outside, and I'm like, well, that's
interior
not helpful.
hallway sounds like the best place.
Yeah, and so
building.
like I'd go to my bathroom because I at least don't have to sit in the hallway like awkwardly.
Okay, let's say you live in my split foyer house. It just happens to be in Omaha. Okay, what would you do?
You go down to the basement, crack a beer, wait for it all to blow
Where
over.
in the basement?
Under the stairwell.
Well, I will bring this up in my class about, okay, if somebody breaks in your house in the middle of the night, what do you do?
You maintain position within the room at which you were originally in, unless there's a reason for you to leave, like children or whatever, but you should not leave the room you're in.
Well, what my specific thing that I always say is, the first thing I'm going to do after my wife wakes me up, because if something happened like that, I'm not going to wake up. I'm going to get my pistol out of my bedside safe, and then I'm immediately going to get to the other side of the bed. Like, I'm going to go over my wife to get to the other side of the bed, and it has nothing to do with protecting my wife. It's because if I stay where I am at my gun safe and bad guys in my bedroom doorway, it's directly in line with my daughter's bed.
Right.
So that angle must change as soon as possible. And then once that's over, then I get down the hallway until all the bedrooms are behind me, and then I start yelling, "Get the fuck out of my house."
Right.
You know, and with the tornado analogy, people always like, go to the basement. And then they think I'm like trying to quiz them on like what is the correct place in a basement. Like, I don't know what the fuck it is. But just know where you're going. Don't like don't run in circles in the basement like I don't know where to go.
Well,
you know, because like we were gonna go. Our place was under the stairs. Guess what? There's a bunch of shit under our stairs.
Right. That's where your Christmas tree is.
Yes, that's where all my hunting clothing and my skis and ski boots and my wife's old massage table. Like, there's no room for a person to take shelter under our stairs.
Yep.
Like, that's when we realized, we need to go to the laundry room.
Yep. Right.
But we just had a bad plan.
Right. Well, and thinking it through before it happens, a lot of people, especially with violence.
As much
as you can. And a lot of people have zero exposure to violence. And so, like I don't want to keep harping back to like the ADHD thing, but like my fight or flight got way too engaged when I was a kid when it shouldn't have, to the point where now, and then combining that with 10 plus years of fighting people, that like my fight or flight is hard to engage at this point, because I'm like, oh, we're doing this, all right, whatever, like, because I put myself into stressful situations so often that it's not weird for me to be in them. And so that's where kind of if you ever deal with someone, especially like veterans or people or cops, people who are used to medical personnel, people who are used to high stress situations, that they're like, oh, okay, like we're doing things because it's not a weird place for them to be. Whereas if it's your first time in a high stress situation, you've got a hormone dump you're not used to. You've got like your brain's going like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Blah, blah, blah. And what you learn is it's not about all the what ifs. It's all right. We have this situation. What do we need to do? Okay. No, like the guy breaking his ankle. No one's bleeding. He's not screaming. Okay. Like prop his leg up. We'll call the ambulance. People are like, do we need to splint? And I'm like, don't touch him. It's more about what you don't need to do than what you do need to do.
Yeah.
Like what I don't need to do is mess with this broken bone because I'm not trained for it.
Right.
I don't have expertise in it.
Yeah.
I don't have liability to protect me from this. But if I call medical professionals, they do. So it's like, hey bro, chill here. And like call the ambulance or whatever. And like even calling 911, for those of you who have never done it, they're going to ask police, fire, medical, tell them which one. They'll transfer you to whichever department. Describe the situation as clearly as possible. They might ask you the questions 2 or 3 times because they want to get the proper information. Give them a clear address. Done.
Yeah.
Like that's and so yeah, it's.
I've called 911 a few times, but it's always been for something. Well, I did call 911 when we were in Kansas City, Kansas last year for a domestic violence thing that spilled into the hotel parking lot when we were getting ready to leave. That
Nice.
That was interesting. And I was just, my kids were in the car. My wife was still inside, and she was just staying inside because the thing spilled out of the hotel into there. And I was out at the car with my kids, and so we just all got in the car, and they got to watch it. But, you know, I mean, I was carrying at the time, but this was not my place to intercede, even though there was an assault going on. It was just, this is not my fight. If it comes to us, then I might do something about it, but until we're in danger, it's best I just stay out of this.
Yeah, a lot of people think they want to be the hero or
sheepdog.
Right, or it's the right thing.
Fucking sheepdog.
Exactly, or it's a right thing to do. Like I can't just I'm like every person in security will tell you do not get involved in domestic.
No,
never.
No, I mean, if he's like beating on her unconscious. Like she's unconscious and continuing to like hit her with a baseball bat. Okay, at that point, like, could I live with myself later? Like, I don't know. I can't say for sure. But
right.
I mean, I could see there being a situation where I would. But generally, like what was going on, like it was fairly serious. It wasn't the most serious I could imagine, but it was pretty serious. And it was not worth me getting involved. But anyway,
right. And because there is one element to this that is sucks, but there is a legal element to it that even if you're right, they can still sue you.
Well, yeah, there's that too. Okay. Another question from the same guy. What is the best brand of water repellent sheets to use if you dream too vividly?
I don't know. You're the one with children.
This is a reference to me last week going, hey, don't leave me hanging, fucker. When I mentioned dreaming that I was peeing and then actually started to pee, and you're like, well, I've never done that. You're a fucking liar, by the way. I firmly believe you have done that, like everyone has. Anyway, let's see. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that got in there too.
There's a stage design and stage planning.
Let's do the stage planning one.
Okay.
Because we've talked a lot about stage design lately. Let's talk stage planning. So they meant to put it in the super thread, but forgot. Okay. They're a left-handed shooter and trying to figure out when to run a stage different than the right-handed shooters. Obviously, some stages, there is only one way to run them. But I think in the large field stages, it matters a little bit more. And also stages with lots of options. Any suggestions on high-end left-hand shooters and watch their videos? Well, I'm not sure I'm that high end of a left-handed shooter, but I did share a video of mine where this was from Free State this year, where there was a pretty big field course, and I was really jealous of Craig's. Craig Oakenfuss had a butt fan that he got from Amazon.
Nice.
He actually like hung it on the back of my shorts at one point, and I'm like, oh wow, that's very, very refreshing. It was quite amazing to have a cool breeze blowing down your crack. It really was. I wouldn't think it would feel that good, but it was amazing. Anyway, it was Craig's stage down there, and you had to start on the left. There's a little bit of a retreat at the beginning, but not like a dangerous retreat. where you're like turning around and running because there was targets to shoot, so it was more of a back pedal. For the most part, maybe a little bit of a sideways run, but then there was targets again right away. But then you had one of two options. You either run completely across the bay to the right side, and there were some right-handed people that did this too, or you could kind of work around the front and finish on the right. And, work forward in sort of an arc, like arc forward to the right and then to the back. And even as a lefty, even though it was going to be really awkward moving to my weak side, I thought for me it was going to be so much faster because, like, the less time I spend not shooting, the better. And that's true for everybody. Like, the longer your amount of time not shooting is, the worse it is. Now, if you're like Steven and you can cover that ground in 2 seconds, okay. Maybe it's worth it. I can't cover that ground in 2 seconds. It's going to take me 3 at least to cover that ground. So I'm giving up a second already. Right. I can just continue to shoot constantly around, and then I'm just going to make one short run that's only about 1 second to shoot one target, and then one more little short run, and then finish. So it's as a lefty, the thing is you're just automatically going to get a little bit better at looking at both plans, and also like whether or not you're going to, reloading to your weak side as a lefty. If you've been a lefty in the sport for a while, you just already know how to do it because you've been forced to so many times. Like, it's not a problem for me moving to my right to reload. Like, I'm actually pretty good at it because even if I turn 90 degrees to the right, like if I turn my body to the 180, my gun is still mostly pointed at 0, and I've just gotten good at like moving my arm so that the mag goes into the mag well that way. And whatever, but I don't know. When it comes to stage planning, I look for ways to minimize shooting not shooting while moving. That doesn't mean I'm looking necessarily for I'm going to shoot while moving all the time, but the shortest distances to where I can't shoot, I try to minimize that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The stage planning element, there's not a lot for me to comment because as a non-left-handed person, I mean,
yeah,
like was said, is most stages there is a way to run them regardless of whatever hand or gun you're shooting, because that's just how stage design works sometimes. It tends to be very large field courses or kind of weird start positions that can kind of give you a few options, but most of the time it's, shit, here's a bad way to do this. Let me make the best out of it. So like Andy said, getting your good reload in there and figuring out what works best for you. If I'm not trying to throw shade, but like someone like Scott Arnberg, he shoots on the move at all times because he's not getting to that position very fast. But if you watch him shoot, he never stops shooting.
Yeah, he's shooting the whole time.
He's shooting the whole time. Whereas people like Steven or fast dudes that can get from position to position to position, shooting on the move is not part of their plan. It like they might, blow by a target and just put 2 on it and whatever. But I get in a position, do the thing, go to the next position is my general strategy versus shooting on the move. But it all depends.
I'll shoot on the move if I think like that stage at the dark match in Bay 4, like it was definitely better for me to shoot nonstop because I was less than a second away than Steven on time.
Right.
I just didn't have as good a hits, but and I also had a makeup on the activator. If I hit that the first go around, then it's even closer.
Yep.
But it was like I can't run as fast as he can. I can't cover that ground. Because like if I was as fast as he was, I would do his plan too. But I couldn't.
That's the beauty of our sport. Mm-hmm. So who do you think the highest level left-handed shooter is?
I was actually I don't know. I know there's left-handed GMs out there. They're just not in the public eye. At least that I know. I'm not trying to. I'm probably forgetting somebody. We
100% are forgetting somebody, but who it is,
I don't know who it is. I know I'm the best left-handed A-class limited optics shooter.
Right.
That's for sure.
Let's see.
Because I'm 0.0022% away from master, but Yeah,
So,
and as far as like the lefty, watching the DQ thing, I'll do the right-handed stage plan, even though it's a bigger risk. But if the target angles are better, then the target angles are better. Sometimes I'll shoot the left-handed plan, not because I'm afraid of DQing. It's because the target angles are better. And I'm looking at the righties going, you guys are dumb. This is usually at a club match. But like all the righties, squads tend to be a hive mind. And I'll see all the righties doing the same plan because it's the right-handed plan. But the target angles are easier if you shoot it like a lefty and, moving towards their weak side. Yeah, you'd have to be careful of your reload, but like all you have to do is be careful for that 2 seconds. And then the rest of the stage is way easier if you do it that way. So, especially on like left right stages, where you're basically going down a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
And so it kind of comes down to just the confidence, build the confidence to go, this is my plan. I'm doing it because it works best for me. Don't like figure out why people are doing what they're doing, but then go, well, I'm doing it this way because this is the way I'm doing it. And like I dealt with this with my leg injury that like I couldn't run very well. So like I made stage plans with the idea of like, hey dude, you can't run into these positions. So you need to be like, I kind of adopted the kind of Scott Arnberg mindset of like, hey, if there's a target available, you need to shoot it because you don't know that you're going to hobble to that position fast enough.
By the way, how's your leg doing?
It is much better. Hopefully I'm cleared this week to get back to my reindeer games.
Okay. You mean like full on kickboxing shit?
Yeah.
Oh,
full on sparring and I think I can run around on it. There catches a little bit here and there, but I'm not hop along anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that looked really painful. Okay. Well, we're going to record another show tonight, so that'll be the Friday episode. Thank you all for listening. Patreon.com/notanothershootingshow. You'll get that entire second episode on Friday. You just have to subscribe. $3.57 a month. Oh, hey, we didn't even mention what there was a thing that happened between the last time we recorded and tonight. Do you remember what that was?
Now? I don't know. It's the Marine Corps birthday.
Is it? Semper Fi.
Yeah. Do or die.
There was tomorrow is Veterans Day.
Yep.
But there was a thing. Was it last Tuesday? Was that what it was? Oh, yeah. South Dakota voted down marijuana again. Damn it.
Yeah,
Damn
Nebraska's going to get marijuana before you as long as our Supreme Court doesn't strike down the ballot.
We had it. We passed it. But then a lawsuit was filed that said there's an amendment in our Constitution that says that initiated measures can only be one subject.
Yep.
And because they had not only the approval of marijuana, but also like the tax, that they're two separate issues. So boom, it got overturned. And then ever since then, it hasn't been voted for.
Yep.
Which is really weird. But anyway,
ours is even dumber than that. We collected the signatures to get it on the ballot. And then like at the last minute, they were like, hey, we don't think that you like got the signatures correctly or something.
Oh,
and
they're pulling the petition nonsense.
Right, which is how they actually got it taken off last time. And this time it was so late that they're like, we're going to leave it on the ballot. And so like it could pass, and then I think it did pass, but then it could be like removed because of like legal shenanigans.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. I think Trump won the election, and he's going to give us all he's going to wave his magic wand and give us interstate concealed carry reciprocity.
Yep, just like he gave us suppressors.
Everybody's got a hard-on for the reciprocity. I'm like, because he has this video, I will sign concealed carry reciprocity. Yeah, he'll sign it after Congress passes it. I'm not going to hold my breath on that happening, even with a double Republican Congress, because...
After he takes the guns first and then does the due process later.
Okay. Anyway. I should have even brought it up. He's Jeff King. I'm Andy Erickson. This is Not Another Shooting Show.